understanding and designing for cultural differences in user interaction. We have an exciting session ahead, I believe, and I am excited to see those of you in attendance right now. Um, Before we dive into today's topic, let me take a moment to introduce ACM and share a bit about what we do. So, ACM stands for the Association for Computing Machinery. It's the world's largest educational and scientific computing society dedicated to advancing computing as both a science and a profession. So ACM offers a wealth of resources, including special interest groups, publications, conferences, and access to a vast digital library. And our community exchanges information, develops ideas, and fosters innovation at the forefront of computing field. So this particular session, this webinar is organized by ACM SIGCHI Lagos, a local chapter of the ACM Special Interest Group on Computer-Human Interaction. So our Lagos chapter is committed to fostering a research culture in Nigeria, especially in the area of human-computer interaction. We aim to build a vibrant community of individuals who are passionate about HCI, and our goal is to promote effective interaction and meaningful research within this field in Nigeria. So we organize events like this webinar, and we look forward to hosting more workshops and discussions to explore the latest trends in HCI, share knowledge, and promote best practices in designing human-centered technologies. So if you are passionate about HCI or you are interested in learning more, we encourage you to get involved with the community. Today's webinar is particularly relevant in our globalized world, where technology, of course, connects people across diverse cultures and regions. So the topic of cross-cultural HCI addresses a challenge in technology design. So how to create user experiences that resonate with various cultures. So I'm happy to introduce our speaker for today, Derrick. Derrick is a highly accomplished product designer currently working with Yellow Card app, and he has designed digital products that have impacted millions of users across multiple industries. So Derrick he definitely knows his onions, and I'm very happy to introduce him to speak to us on this very delicate topic. And without any further delay, I would like to hand over to Derrick to lead us through this webinar. If you have any questions, you can always drop it in the chat, and by the end of the session, our speaker would definitely attend to most or at least all of them if time allows. So, Derrick, over to you.
Hi, can you hear any feedback from my background?
No, it's all clear.
Everything is all clear. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was a packed intro. Now there's a lot of pressure on me.
No pressure, no pressure.
That's a very packed intro. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. Hi. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. Yes, like I said, that intro was cool. You've put so much pressure on me, but let's see what God will do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you everybody for joining the session. Right. I'm hoping by the time that we are done, I would have answered some questions, then clarified any confusions, and yeah, right. Because this is quite a technical topic. It's not the usual UI like design principles, or it's not the usual things that we can do in Figma like stuff, right? This is quite a technical topic, and when it was shared with me, I was like, oh wow, what am I going to say? But yeah, my name is Derrick. Um, I'm a product designer. Recently podcast host, Edge Cases podcast, so you can check it out when you do have the time on Spotify anywhere. Um, I code when I'm bored, and I design when I'm bored from coding. So I have a very weird mind. I do some intense stuff to relieve, like just to be calm, and then I get bored and I do mundane stuff. Yeah, you might find that out when I'm talking. I've got a weird brain, but all in all, thank you all for coming to listen to me. I'm very honored with the audience, and yeah, looking forward to a good time. So today we'll be looking at cultural HCI, right? Human computer interaction. And we're looking at a couple of things under the topic, right? Um, we'll be looking at a lot of things under the topic. We'll be looking at a theory, right? Get Hofstede cultural dimensions theory. It's one theory that governs some of these cultural interactions, right? We'll briefly look at some of the parts of the theory. We'll look at communication styles and user expectations, color symbols, information architecture, iconography, localization, internationalization, user research, case study. We'll look at some of all these when it comes to cultural HCI, how we can leverage the culture of the people that we are designing for to create experiences that fit them, that will wait. Do you want to see my face, or do you think it's fine?
Whichever you're comfortable with.
Okay, all right. Let me maybe do. Okay, yeah. So we'll look at all these parts of the cultural HCI and see how we can design interfaces to suit our users' culture, so that there will be increase in user adoption, and other metrics we'll be able to move the needle on other metrics as well. Right. So yeah, we'll start with the beginning. Cool. So what's cultural HCI, right? Basically at the barest form, it's the study and practice of design user interfaces that are culturally appropriate and effective. Right. We are at the point in the world, right, in a culture that everybody wants to be represented in whatever you do. Right. Everybody wants to be shown or wants to feel wanted in a certain way in whatever interface that you design. So if somebody picks up your device, they want to be able to feel that you thought about them when you were designing the product. You considered them, you considered their thoughts, their feelings, and all that when you were designing the product. So that's where we are currently in the world. Everybody wants to be represented. So now, as a designer for digital products, how do you use all that, or how do you represent everybody, or at least majority of the people in whatever interface you are designing? Right? How do you leverage that? How do you leverage the differences? And then those are some of the things that we'll look at here. Right. One example that I can give is within my team, Yellow Card, we design for about 20 different countries. So whatever experience that we put out, people in these 20 African countries are going to use it. And all these 20 African countries have different wants and needs. So you are constantly reminded of the fact that, oh, this person or this country is not aligned with this. This country wants to do this in a different way. This country wants to do that. This country wants to do that. And that can be tasking on you, because you now have to consider what Ghanaians think, what Nigerians think, what people in Benin think, what people in the US and all over that they think. Right. So you realize in the African space, we have like multiple products. We have Paystack, we have no this Paystack. The first one was Flataway. We have the Haptel, we have Yellow Card. We have all these products, and all of them need to consider the different backgrounds that they designed for. Right. So if you are a designer on this product, like what are you going to do? All that, and we'll deal in some of that later on in the presentation. Right. So let's start with some of the key cultural dimensions in HDI. Right. This is based on the theory I mentioned before, the Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory. Right. So we'll look at, like, on a high level, these four things. If I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a bit technical. So if you have any questions, just drop it in the chat, and we'll answer them in like when we get on small breaks within the topics, right? So some key cultural dimensions HCI, based on the Get Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory. So power distance, right? We have power distance, individualism, collectivism, uncertainty avoidance, long-term and short-term orientation. So all these jargons, like what are they? So power distance, this is like the extent to which the powerful or the less powerful members of a society accept an equal power distribution. So how easy is it for the people that are the bottom chain? How easy is it for them to accept that, okay, we can do, or there are things that the people above us can do that we cannot do? So I'll explain this. In places where this is high, right, you realize that a lot of interfaces designed for these people would have heavy admin control panels, right? Where there's the bosses would say, this person cannot do this on the admin panel. Then they'll say, okay, this person cannot approve a transaction, or this person cannot add anybody to the group. I can liken that to our WhatsApp groups where we have the admins and we have the other people in the group. And they'll say, okay, the admins can add people, the admins can pin a message, the admins can delete a message and all that, but the other people within the group cannot do that. So if there's this high power distance between the people, such an interface or such experiences will work well for them, because the people who are at the bottom accept their role as being at the bottom and will not fight the system in order to do things that people at the top will do, right? But then if we have, like, for instance, in the Western world, where there's a lot of friendliness between the hierarchy and then the people at the bottom, it's easy for them to create, or it's easy for them to adopt experiences that foster collaboration, right? So for things, they might prefer experiences that give them equal access to information. So when you go to their offices, you see that, oh, the CEO is not in the penthouse somewhere, but so for some of the startups, the CEO is in the same floor with some of the other employees, because they want to foster communication. But there are other companies that the CEO is at the penthouse and the employees are on the first floor, right? So understanding the cultural difference in those, or understand the culture of that particular group that you are trying to design for, can inform whatever experience you give them, right? I've mentioned the dashboard. So now there's also language. There's also language where you come to the African setting, right? We're all Africans, or yeah, when you come to the African setting, you have to give respect to, you have to bow down when you're talking to, yeah, somebody who's older than you. You have to. So there are some people or some cultures in Nigeria, you lie on the ground, right? What culture is that? Is it? Yeah, I don't want to get it wrong, but what culture is that? I mean, when you are talking to
Our culture.
come again?
The Yorubas.
Europe, so you have to prostrate, you have to lie down, right, and then talk to an elderly person, or when you are greeting them or something, right? So you have to you have to look at the culture you are designing for. So if you are designing an office space for a Nigerian company, you don't go and put the CEO's office on the first floor and then you put the employee's office on the top, on the like the fifth floor. The CEO is going to get angry with you, right? The CEO would want to be on the fifth floor where it's inaccessible, and then all the other kids will be on the bottom floor, right? So understanding culture helps with designing experiences for these different groups, right? The next one will be individualism versus collectivism, right? So individualistic cultures, they focus on personal achievements, right? When I say cultures, don't think of just countries and the rest. Cultures can be a group. It can be a group of friends. It can be a group of your users. It can be some persona within your user group and all that, right? So individualism is like they focus on personal achievement. So you've heard of gamification, right? How many people have heard of gamification? Let me see by hands up, or you can give a thumbs up or something. Okay, George has heard of gamification. Who else? Okay, Harry has heard of. I need the last person who has heard of gamification. Last person. Only two people. Okay, yeah. Frame 56. That's an interesting name. That's an interesting name. All right. So if you are designing for a culture that's individualistic, Gamification will work a lot well with them because those people focus on personal achievement and they would want to be at the top of every ladder they find themselves. So if you are designing for, say, Gen Zs, right, you are designing for people who are athletes, you are designing for people who are young adults. Those people have or are more aligned towards individualism. So adding gamification to the products you are designing will work best because they always strive to be at the top. Right. But then when you talk about collectivists, they are more
Sorry,
communal.
sorry. I think Duolingo is like a very good example.
Exactly. Duolingo is a very good example of that. Right. You see, even the colors of Duolingo, the animations and all that, it leans more towards people who are young, people who are active and all that. Well, while they might have adults or old age people who are using it, their branding leads more towards young and active people. And they do gamification very well with their streaks and all that. Right. So when you are designing for some of these groups, you need to also identify, as part of whatever user research you do, identify the type of group they are. Is it an individualistic group? Is it a collectivist group? A collectivist group will work more in a collaborative environment. So a collectivist group will be like, okay, share this referral, and then when your friend joins, your friend will get a 10% bonus, and you also get a 10% bonus. A collectivist group will do that better than an individualistic group because for the collective group, they want everybody to be on board and they want to share. So if they see that they will get a 10% increment, 10% bonus, and their friend will get a 10% bonus if they share the link, they are more likely to share the link. But then if it's an individualistic group and the individualistic group says that, okay, I'm focused on my own achievement, and you tell them to share the link to their friend, they're like, nah, I want to be at the top. I'm not going to share this link. Right. And this affects whatever experience you give them. So if you take an experience from one and give to the other, you realize that people are not adoption for your product to be low because you are conflicting these different groups, right? And a last example would be Ponzi schemes. When you look at Ponzi schemes, the only reason why somebody would invite you to a Ponzi scheme is because what they would get more money if they invite other people. That's why a lot of young people fall for it because they're thinking about themselves. So invite who here has fallen for a Ponzi scheme? Don't be shy. Right. So, you'll be shared to somebody because you think it will benefit you more, and that's individualistic. I'm not saying one is bad and one is good, but they are just characteristics of different cultures that you should also take into account when you are designing interfaces for them. Right. Then another thing is uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance. This is like how comfortable the culture or somebody within the culture is to ambiguity or uncertainty. Right. I'll give you an example where, as Africans, when you are young and you are questioning authority, they'll say, oh, you are arrogant, you are disrespectful. Who has gotten that before? When you start questioning authority, when they say, do this, and you ask, oh, why should I do this? Do this, they ask, why should I do this? Then they say, oh, no, you are arrogant, you are disrespectful. So from childhood, you are programmed not to ask questions. So when you get to a place where there is uncertainty or you get to a place where there's ambiguity, you struggle because you were not taught to ask questions. Right. But then when we compare it against people in other cultures that are encouraged to ask questions, they are able to navigate uncertainty better. So when you're designing interface for people who have a high uncertainty avoidance, right? People who are not able to ask questions, you need to be very detailed in what you give them, right? Those people will prefer a step-by-step approach when you are designing interfaces for them. They would want more detail because if you provide them with very little detail, they'll be confused because they are not used to navigating ambiguity. They are not used to exploring themselves. They are used to being told, do this, do this. When you go to school and then you give an answer that is not in the textbook, the lecturer will give you 0 because you didn't memorize exactly what's in the textbook. Who has experienced that before? Where you had a 0, but then you wrote, yeah. So, right, we were not brought up with that, or some cultures were not brought up with that. So when you are crafting experiences for these people, you need to be as detailed as possible in the experience because they don't know how to explore. right? But then when you are designing for people who have a lower ambiguity tolerance, you can give them minimalist interfaces and they would explore and they would say that, oh, okay, what does this do? They click it. Oh, cool. This does this. They are willing to read more about what the interface is about. They are willing to share more. They are willing to go online and Google. Right. That is the reason why a lot of African CEOs, they hate minimalist design. Who has done a minimalist design and it was rejected before? Let me see my answer. Right, because because we are not programmed to explore more beyond what we are seeing. Right. So if you give a minimalist design to someone, they're like, is this all? Right. Where is this? I want to see this. I want to see this. We are not programmed to explore. So, and this, I'm not bashing anybody, right? I'm not bashing anybody. This is just an observation of different cultures, right? So you are designing an interface for Africans, and you go and be like, "Oh, the future is here. Click to join it." Somebody will join, and the person will be like, "What's future? What does it mean? This is this, right?" Right. But then if you want people to be more engaged and you are designing for that particular culture, you'd have to be more detailed, right? People are not going to Google. That's why it shows in the adverts, the marketing that we do. Have you realized the marketing we do in Africa is different from the marketing that happens in the Western world? You look at the adverts that we show in Ghana, for instance, when they are advertising a drug, you would see two people, somebody will say, "Oh, my friend was sick," and then they'll pause and dance, and then they'll say, "Oh, this is the medicine that you use," and then they'll do all that in the adverts. But then you watch foreign adverts that are advertising medicine, you see how it's more witty, it's expressive and all, right? And it's cut across a lot of dimensions, not just in design. And yeah, I'm certain about that. It's one part. If you have the chance to read about it, like it opens up your mind to, okay, why things happen in Africa, why things don't happen in Africa, right? Yeah, we've talked a lot about the theory out. Okay, so long term versus short term. This is another part of the theory, another dimension of HCI that is quite important. So say you are designing for two cultures, one for long term, one short term. The short term, long term, they just talked about the time horizon of a society, how they value their time, how they measure the time to success, how they value their time to satisfaction. So if you are designing for a Gen Z culture, right? How many Gen Z people are here? Let me see let me show a thumbs up. Let me see how many Gen Zs are here. 356. Oluwato, you're not Gen Z. You're an old man. But right. So when you're designing for a Gen Z culture, that particular group, they don't have as much patience and then as much attention span as people in quote more mature times, or people who were born maybe 30 years, 100 years ago. No, people who are born 100 years are probably dead, but 20 years, 30 years, 40 years ago, right? The attention span has reduced as time goes on. So when you're designing for a Gen Z culture, one thing you have to make sure to bring the benefits as early as possible, because those people, I'm not Gen Z, right? I'm millennial. The Gen Z group they don't have the patience to wait for you to talk and do whatever you are trying to do. What are you talking about? Go straight to the point, right? That's why TikTok has become very big, because people get to reduce their time to satisfaction on their product, right? People get to reduce their time to satisfaction. People are not going to read long threads on Twitter, and they can see a 30-second video and then get their satisfaction. But when you're designing for people who have a more long-term orientation, you can take your time and make the experience sweet for them, because those people have the patience and they can wait for the satisfaction. But then for the Gen Z culture, they might not be able to wait for the satisfaction, and they want things as quick as possible, right? They want quick onboarding processes. They want quick updates to their apps. They want quick changes. They want to see new things all the time, right? So if you are designing for that particular type of culture, you You need to pay attention to, okay, let me quickly make this not like outdated. Let me change this very quickly. Let me update this app. Let me do this so that you keep the attention for long. But then for people who are much older, people who are in quotes, I'm putting mature in quotes because there are some people who can be 40 years and still act like babies, right? For people who are much older and the rest, you can focus on making the journey more sweet because those people are more prone to having the patience to stay within the entire or to stay for the entire experience, right? So for example, if you are designing for Uber drivers in say a crowded city, the city is crowded, right? And then the most crowded city, let's say India. I don't think India is the most crowded, but it's one of the crowded ones, right? So let's say India. The Uber drivers are not going to wait for plenty animations and plenty loading screens and all in order to properly go about their job. The city is crowded. They need the riders quickly. They need to move from one place to the other quickly. So those people, if you are designing for them, you need to like pay attention to the experience, make it as quick as possible and easy, right? So we'll talk about so we'll talk about some of the dimensions per the theory, right? So the other ones we'll talk about some of the other things to consider when like going through some of the HTI. Right. So the first thing is the communication style and user expectations. Some cultures prefer direct indirect communication. Right. They don't want you to be diplomatic about anything. They want straight to the point. Right. Some of them want formality. So I explain this. In this example, right, we have two of the same interfaces but different copies. So the first one is more straightforward, right? The first one says drag and drop your ingredients onto the plate to create your special meal plan. This is straightforward, right? There are some cultures that would appreciate this and it's straightforward, right? But then when you go to a culture like maybe the Asian culture where things are more formal, right? You go to the Asian culture where things are more respectful and the rest. You might want to. Would you like to explore creating your own unique meal? Right. This is more diplomatic. This is not straightforward. Like okay, drag and drop your this. Right. It's more respectful. It's more diplomatic. And you are okay. You might find it interesting to select. So you see, even the tone is different. Right. One is straightforward and one is more diplomatic. In Ghana, or not even just in Ghana, in Africa, you can't just go to an adult and say, "Give me the cup." Right. You can't just go and say, "Give me the chair." Right. You need to say, "Please." So if you are crafting experiences for cultures like that, you need to be more diplomatic. You need to be more respectful in quotes. Oh, please click here. Oh, please do this. Can you do this? Kindly raise this. Right. If you're very direct in it, people might perceive you as disrespectful. And some of these small changes go a long way into making people either like your product or hate your product. Right. We had an issue with some of our illustrations for one of our products where we had an illustration at the end of the flow for the error screen. And then on the error screen, the person had frowned their face. Right. In the illustration. For the illustration, the person has frowned their face. And then we had a lot of complaints on our customer support. I was really surprised when I saw it. And the complaint was that the illustration was disrespectful, that a customer is having problems and then the illustration was frowning. I was like, that was the first time I've seen something like that. Yeah, it was it was so interesting. That was the first time I'd seen something like that. Until then, I hadn't realized how the illustrations and the rest affect how users perceive the app. Right. But then once we got, and it wasn't just one, we had multiple. So we had to do some user research and then come up with new illustration types for some of our products. And then it's improved from there. And it was so surprising to me. That was the first time I'd seen such feedback. Right. So this goes to tell us that there are some of the things that we might not consider as important for our users or our customers, but then they see those small things and those things are important to them. Right. So every little thing you do on the interface, every little detail you put there, you need to consider how it's going to affect your users. Right. We always say this whole design for your users, design for your users. But what does it truly mean? Right? Do you actually design for users, or you design for yourself and for your boss? How many of you design for your boss? What do you call it? You call it Oga Center design. Right. So some of the tiny things that our users would notice, some of the tiny things they'll notice, and those things would like tell us whether they'll stay with the product or not. Right. Let's look at what color symbolism across cultures. So with color symbolism, let's look at this color chart. Different cultures take color or perceive color in a different way. Right. So if we look at red, in the eastern part of the world, red can be used for happiness, prosperity, good fortune. Right. But then if you come to my country, Ghana, red can be used in funerals. Right. Red can be used for danger. Red can be used for a witch. If you watch Ghanaian movies or Nigerian movies, and you see somebody has tied red cloth on their waist and then they have white chalk on their face, they are evil. Right. But then the same red stands for good fortune in the eastern part of the world. So so if you are designing for the eastern part of, or for some of the Middle East, or some of the no Middle East. Yes, then I have a question. Oh, it's an error. Okay, so we had see our life purple. Right, purple means death in the Western world. so full joy. Right, yeah, right. So if you are designing, say, an app for children in the Middle East, and you're going to use red, where Middle East red means danger, right? But because red means excitement and all in your country, if you don't take into consideration what it means for the user, you are going to like you are going to offend the user, and it might not be your fault. You didn't know, right? But you need to take all this into consideration. The user will be angry with you. Black stands for what? Mourning in the Middle East. It starts for funeral in the Western. It stands for health, knowledge, prosperity, stability. But then some people use it for mourning, right? So these are some of the small things that we need to take into consideration when you are like designing for cultures. You need to research on the color. You need to know what the color means. Do your research. Do your user research. Test it with users just to make sure like it works well with them. Right. Now, another part of our product that we also need to take into consideration, navigation and information architecture. When designing for culture, we need to take into consideration this also. Right. The first one being left to right, right to left consideration. You realize in Arabic, we read or write from the left, from the right to the left, and then English is from the left to the right. Right. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. English is from the left to the right, Arabic is from the right to the left. So if you are designing an interface for Arabic and you go and then your mockup is left to right, how do you think your readers are going to feel about it? Right? You don't optimize for left and right. You don't optimize for bigger text. So when I say bigger or longer text, the average German word is longer than the average English word. Right? Germans have some very long words for some simple English words area. So you need to take all that into consideration also when designing for that particular culture or that particular group, because you don't want to feel you don't want them to feel like you've left them out, right? Linear and non-linear navigation. What this means is people who there are some culture or some older people who would want things to be predictable, who want things to be step by step. They want things to be as they want it, right? So, for example, a farmer in my village, if they learn how to create, let's say, an invoice, they want that experience to be the same everywhere they go. They don't want any customization. They don't want any addition anywhere. They don't want anything that will confuse them. They want the thing to be as linear as possible. Click here, click here, click here, invoice created. But then when it comes to the younger people, people in other cultures, I use Gen Z as an example in the previous, so I'll use them here again. If you come to the other culture, the younger culture, they want more customization, they want more freedom. So they would lean towards a non-linear process in order to achieve the customization they want. Right. So allow them to customize, allow them to explore the app. Don't, for that particular group of people, they don't want to be limited. That particular culture, they don't want to be limited. They want to have the freedom to explore. So you are designing a website for young people. Allow them customization. Right. Allow them to explore the app. Allow them to change things. If they want to change the background color to white, allow them to do that. If they want to change the background color, they want to upload their profile pictures, allow them to do that. If they want to change the navigation, allow them to do that. Right. Give them the chance to explore or express themselves. Right. So linear versus non-linear can simply be at a very, very high level, like young versus old. Right, like a very, 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 very high level, young versus old. Because as you get older, you don't want things to change. Right. When I was younger, I'm not saying I'm very old, right? I'm still a young man, right? But then when I was younger, I wanted to do a whole lot of things. But as I'm growing old, I want things to be how I know, how I want it, how I've known it to be. Right. If I open Twitter right now and Twitter changes something, I get annoyed because I don't want to I don't want to learn new skills and all that. Right. But then for people who are more expressive, they want to change, they want to customize and all that. Right. So that's a way we can customize our navigation and information architecture when it comes to different cultures that we design for. Right. Linear, I've talked about linear, I've talked about non-linear also. Yeah. Please, if you have questions, drop in the chat or just raise your hand. The place where the hands have been raised, yeah, you can just raise your hand and then ask the question. Right. Cool. So let's go to iconography and visual metaphors. This is another very important part of designing for different cultures, right? Because people understand more or they understand easily the things they see over the things they'll read. Right. So iconography and visual metaphors is very important in that. Right. So for example, let me give you this. How many people know what this is? If you know what this is, raise your hand and tell me. Chinonso?
Disket.
This is a what?
A disket.
Yeah. Or a floppy disk. Yeah. How many people who are the age of 20 would know what this is? Or how many people who are the age of 15 will know what this is? Right. Is there any 15-year-old here? Trust, are you 15 years old?
I'm not sure they're reading for what.
Come again?
I'm not sure they've seen it for what. That's knowing what it is.
30 plus. I didn't hear what you said, Trust.
I said I'm not sure people that are 15 years old, they've seen it. Not to talk of what it is.
Exactly. So now if you go and you are doing a button and then you put the floppy disk icon there with no text, people who have not seen this before, they won't know what it is to click on it. You understand what I'm saying? Right? They won't know what this is, and they won't know that, oh, if you click on it, it means save. They won't know. So you look at the group they are designing for kids, don't put this there because they won't know what it is. Or better still, if you put the save icon there, add the text save to add more affordance or to add more description to it so that they know exactly what it does. But people who are not in that particular age group, 30 plus, the 30 plus people like George and the rest, they will know what this is. They will know what this is. Right. So yeah, so let's look at the next one, religious and cultural symbols. Right. So with religious and cultural, we need to be very cautious with how we use visual cues, especially when it comes to different cultures and religion. For example, what does this mean? If you see this somewhere, can somebody let me know what it means? What do you think this is?
PGVS savings.
Savings, right. Anybody else? Is there any other thing?
Piggy bank also.
Piggy vest.
Yeah, it could mean a pig also. That could relate to a Muslim.
Yeah. So now, for you that you've seen this before, this means savings, or this is piggy vest, or this is investment, or any other cash related subject, right? But then for the people of India, a pig represents one of the 10 avatars of Vishnu, right? It's one of the gods that they worship, or one of the manifestations of one of the gods in India, right? So if you are, let's say you are doing an investment app and then your logo is this, and then you go and launch in India, what do you think they'll do to you? Right. So because they don't understand, or they don't regard it as savings, they regard it you got right, because of the way they see it in their culture, they might not receive it the way you want them to receive it. They might receive it differently just because it is a new god, or they see a pig as a new god, right? A pig is also an unclean animal in certain jurisdictions, right? Who knows that the pig is also an unclean animal in some religions. So if the people you are designing for are highly religious, and you go and present them this as a savings product, they are going to frown at you, because they will say, "Oh, this is a very unclean animal. Why do you want me to indulge in this?" Do you see how sometimes our culture hinders the progress of some of our products just because of how our users perceive it, and we might not even know, right? So yeah, another thing about visual metaphors is gestures, right? I wish I'll just turn my camera on and show you guys. Okay, let me see. Let me show you that. I'll do some of the gestures. Let me see. Okay, can you see my face? Okay, all right, cool. So I'll do some of the gestures and then we'll see, right? So you see, when you click on you guys should click on the thumbs up, and let me show you. Click on the thumbs up. And you see how the thumbs up shows. Do you see how the thumbs up? You see how the thumbs up closes like this, right? In Ghana, this is an insult. Right. In Ghana, if you do this to somebody, it's an insult. That in Ghana. But then when you click on the thumbs up on Google and Google Meet and see. So you see how the illustration does this? That's an insult in Ghana. But then it's thumbs up somewhere else, or the animation describes that as a thumbs up. Right. So now you go and do this to somebody who is very cultural, or a Ghanaian who is like very deeply rooted in the culture. The person is going to be offended because you are doing this to me. Why are you insulting me? Right. Why are you insulting me? Now, let's look at some others. Right. This in Nigeria. What does this mean in Nigeria? Who would answer? What does this mean in Nigeria?
Your mother.
Your
Your mother, your father.
right. But then if you go to another culture and do this, somebody will probably give you a high five. Right. But then that's not the intention behind it. So you see how we can perceive the same thing in different ways, and that might not be what you mean. But then because the culture is different, people can take it the wrong way. So imagine you're going to give somebody a high five in Nigeria, and then you do like this, and then and then right, and the person starts insulting you. You're like, what? Right. So you need to be aware of some of the different gestures, even when you are designing for these cultures. So when you are using illustrations or animations, you need to be mindful of some of the cues, some of the gestures in the culture, right? And let's look at the last one. What do you think this means in India?
Like very good.
Very good.
Awesome. Like yes.
Right.
You know?
But then when you go to a Ghanaian school, or when you go I think there are majority Ghanaian Nigerians here. When you go to a Ghanaian school, a Ghanaian Nigerian school, and the teacher asks you, "How are you?" and you do this, what do you think the teacher will think?
Are you stupid? Can't you answer?
You see how the same thing or similar things like are different in different cultures. So same thing with experiences. If you are adding some of these things in different cultures, people are going to take it in a different way. And you, the designer, your B2B legendary. True, right? And you, the designer, you might think that, oh, I've done the best work I can. But then you've done the best work, but then it's from your own biases, it's from your own understanding. And the users are going to have a different reception to it. Right. So this emphasizes that we need to do better with research. We need to do better with talking to our users and all that. In order to know some of these small nuances that differentiates one user or one culture from the other. Right. So how can we be better at this? Let's use text labels when we are using icons, because an icon of a pig can be seen differently in two different ways. An icon of a floppy disk can be seen differently in two different cultures. So let's use text labels alongside when you're using icons. You test the icons. You can opt for abstract or geometric designs when you are not sure what to use, because an abstract one would be maybe rarely misinterpreted, right? Because it doesn't resemble anything real, right? But then if you're trying to use scheme, let me change this. This guy is shaking his head too much. We need to free him from the shaking of head. Okay, yeah. Right. So when you are using any of these visual cues and gestures, you need to be very careful, because different groups would use or would understand it in different ways, and it might not be your fault. Well, it's your fault because you designed it. Right. All right. So let's look at another part: internationalization versus localization. What is this? Right. So when we talk about internationalization, we are just talking about designing your apps so that the core structure of the app would support multiple languages or multiple cultures. Right. So if you are designing, let's say you are designing an app like this, and you know your app is going to be used in Saudi Arabia, or your app is going to use some of the countries that Arabic is dominant, make sure you mock up your product in Arabic also, so that you'll be able to see the places where there are issues, and then you can optimize for proper solutions. Right. If you are designing for a country that speaks English and Arabic, and then you only design English, if you convert it to Arabic, there might be issues with spacing, there might be issues with visual hierarchy and all that. And if you don't take advantage, if you don't pay attention to all those things, you'd end up making a lot of changes and you might not enjoy your job. Right. So you need to pay attention to this with internationalization. So this internationalization where you make sure your work what covers as much as many cultures as possible that are going to use your product. Right. So when we look at localization, what we are talking about is country specific content or things that are easily understood within a particular culture. Right. So if I go to Nigeria and I say Odogu, everybody will understand what Odogu means, right? Is there any from right?
Yes.
Right. Everybody will understand. This is not the Odogu. I was looking for another Odogu, but then I just put this Odogu there so that people know this Odogu. Right. So if you go to Ghana and then you put this, every Ghanaian knows that this is what Akwaba. Right. This is like you see it a lot in front of people's homes and the rest. Right. And if any Ghanaian who is above the age of maybe 20 or 30, once they see this, they know that, oh, this is a welcome greeting, or this is something that tells me that you are welcoming me, or this is something that tells me that I'm accepted here. Right. If you hail somebody and so as of last year, there was this saying on a Nigeria Twitter, say Idon. I have a lot of Nigerian friends, so if I'm seeing a lot of Nigerian things, yeah, I have a lot of Nigerian friends. They've been influencing me, so I know a lot. So if you are talking to your friends and they say Idon, like IDAN,
You don't.
it's like they are
Yeah.
hating you, right? So if I talk to my friend, I say Idon, my friend knows that because we are within the same culture, and then we share that slang, and they know that this is what I'm talking about, right? But then you are designing something for England, or let's say for United Kingdom, and you go and put idon there. What? How do you think people are going to react to it? Right, they're not going to understand it because it's not something that is associated with that particular culture. But then you can get away with it. For example, let's say you do a transaction, and then at the end of the transaction, you say that, oh, now you sabi, right? And then you put that there at the end of the transaction. The person will feel good, like, oh yeah, I've sent money to somebody, and you are telling me like I sabi. Are we feeling happy with that? Ghanaians also with Charlie and all that, right? So all this, you won't be able to do it until you know and understand the small nuances in all those cultures, or until you interact with the people, until you spend some time understanding what the people like and all that, and you'll be able to create experiences that work for them. Right. Same thing with dates. Even dates. Charlie, you do, or yeah, you do. Even with dates, date, right? People use day, month, year. People use month, day, year. People use year, day, month. People use year, month, day. You need to know what date that particular culture uses. Right. In Ghana, we do a lot of day, month, year. If you go to the US, it's more of month, day, year. Another cultures also, they start with year, this and this. So you need to understand. So if you are designing let's say a product label for a pharmacy, and then you are putting the expiry date there, and you go and put 0209 2014, one culture will read it as February 9 2014. Another culture will read it as what, 2nd September 2014. You see how the same date? Let me type into the chat so that you can visualize it. So if you put 0209 2014, good. So I'll put it in the chat, right? 0209 2014. One culture that does day, month, year will read it as 2nd September 2014. The culture that does month, day, year will read it as 9th February 2014. Now, if you are communicating expiry date in this format, you'll be confusing people, right? So once you know the culture that this design is going to be put there, you can now format your date for them so that you don't go and make anybody drink any medicine that's expired just because you thought the date was easily understood. Right. So I'm sure a lot of designers have killed people just because of dates. Right. Okay, cool. So let's go on. So yeah, internationalization and then localization, right? So you need to provide plenty of space for text expansion if you are designing for, say, the Deutsch language, right? You are designing for Swahili, you are designing for some of the languages that have longer words. You need to provide space for text expansion, right? You need to provide the nuanced imagery and content and all that, right? Text with users from target locales. So if you are designing for Nigeria, you know what to say when you are designing for Nigeria, what to say when you're designing for Ghana, what to say when you're designing for other cultures, right? We've talked a lot about localization in there. Right. So let's look at user research in cross-cultural context, right? Please, this one I've not seen any question. Is it that I'm confusing you or you guys understand? Let me know.
They're probably saving the questions for later, or I just
Okay.
took this following along.
Okay. All right, cool. So user research in cross-cultural context, right? So I've been privileged to do user research in like multiple countries, right? So for example, in Nigeria, what I realized when you go to Nigeria, Nigerians are more open to talk, they are more expressive, right? So if you are doing user research in Nigeria, it's not difficult to get information when you're doing user research from Nigeria. Like when you get people who are willing to do the research, it's not, so you can put them in a group and then you can have a focus group or you can chat among them and then all of them will be open to talk, right? It's not the same for Ghanaians. Ghanaians are more shy. Ghanaians are more shy. If you put Ghanaians in a group to talk, you might not get any valuable feedback. because everybody is shy. Everybody wants to be reserved to let the other person talk, right? But the Nigerians are more expressive. They will talk. Yes, can you? Right. So, and I realized this when we went to Zambia, right? If you've been in Zambia before and you are from Ghana or Nigeria, you might not be comfortable because everybody in Zambia is so chill and so calm, right? When they are driving, they don't overtake. When you are driving, everybody's driving calmly. Everybody is following the traffic symbols. When the traffic light says stop, everybody stops. When it say don't turn here, nobody turns there. And I, I was in Zambia and I was like, you guys are really chill because when you come to my country, and I've been in Nigeria too for a while. Yeah, I've been right in Ghana and Nigeria. The traffic light is just a suggestion. So if the traffic light turns red, the Ghanaian would say, "Oh, it's red. Okay, I hear you," and then they'll cross it. Right. I stayed in Lagos for about a week. I think I came to Lagos also for UDC last year. So yeah, we were in a car, we were driving around, and this traffic light was red, and people were still going. And I was like, what's happening? Isn't this red? And my friend was like, "Oh, well, you have to be wild. Let's go, let's go." Right. So so I digress. Let's come back to user research. Right. It's easy to get more information from, for example, Ghana and Zambia when you get them one-on-one, right? Because a lot of people are more reserved when they are in groups. So when you want information, when you're doing user research from some of these cultures, you need to get them one-on-one and then chat with them, and you'll be able to get proper answers. But for some cultures that are more open, like some of the Western cultures, that they are more open. You remember we talked about how they're able to be expressive. You remember in the beginning we talked about how people are allowed to question authority and the rest. So they are more vocal. When you get those people in a focus group, those people will talk because they are not scared of voicing out their opinion. But for people who are scared of voicing out their opinion, people who are shy or people who are laid back, you get them one-on-one in order to do better user research, right? So user research, it's not also one size fits all where you are like, oh, interview work for everybody. Interview might not work for everybody because of their culture, right? Interview, there are some cultures too that if you're a man, you are not allowed to talk one-on-one. You see how this person is one-on-one with a lady? There are some cultures that when you're a man, you're not allowed to talk unless you are married to them. You're not allowed to talk one-on-one with a lady like that. So if you are doing user research in those cultures and you go and catch one lady on the street and like, I want to do user research with you, somebody will stone you. Right? Somebody will stone you. So you need to know who you are doing the research on. Right. Wait, do we have time? Or do you guys are okay with me continuing? I have just a few slides left.
Well, I mean, I don't see any complaints.
Okay.
Go-
Okay. We are okay. 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 All right, cool. So when you go to these cultures, you need to be like conscious of the type of people you are dealing with. Right. Otherwise, you'd go and do something to offend them, or you go and do something that the culture doesn't tolerate. Why? You're going to do something the culture doesn't, please, it's just water. It's not, there's nothing in it. If you go and others, you go and do something that the culture doesn't tolerate and all that. Right. So before you go and do your user research, you need to plan. Right. You need to plan who you are going to talk about, who you are going to chat to, what you are going to chat to them about. Right. You can't just walk up to somebody and ask them, are you married? How many children do you want? Some cultures find that intrusive. Right. Some cultures find that interesting. Some cultures do not want you to question them directly. If you come to Ghana here and you don't say please, how many realize Ghanaians say please a lot? Who has realized that? Please, good morning. Please, good afternoon. Please, can you do this? Please, my name is. Even when I come to tell you their name, we'll tell you, please, my name is this. If they come to insult you, they'll say please, and they'll add the insult. Right? Right. If you're even trying to warn somebody, you can say please, 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 please. and then the person will know that you are warning them, right? Yeah, Nigeria say I beg, please excuse me, sorry, yes, please excuse me, please, I'm sorry, please, I'm going. Like we say please a lot. So if you want to do user research or want to chat with Ghanaians and you don't add please, yeah, so Nigeria say sorry, I beg. Yeah, Nigeria say I beg a lot. You guys, yeah, Ghana and Nigeria are just twins. Nigeria are just twins. All right, exactly. Sorry and everything. Cool. So let's look at the quick case study on a widget we built for my team. Right. So this widget was supposed to use for about different 20 African countries. We operate in 20 African countries. So this widget was supposed to service all the African countries. Right. So I'll go through some of the things we did to make sure this widget satisfied everybody. Right. I'll go through some of the things to make sure, yeah, so that you know what we did. Right. So this is a sample of the widgets, right? And this widget is currently doing so well, right, in our product. And yeah, I'm very happy with that. So what did we do? Right. We did user research to reveal what different levels of crypto knowledge and trust, right? Africans don't trust cryptocurrency, right? It's a very touchy field in Africa. We don't trust it. Yeah, there's trust here. Yeah. Africans don't trust crypto, right? And it's very difficult to convince them to use crypto. So that's one thing we saw when we did user research. Africans don't trust crypto. So now what do? When we are doing anything at all, we need to make sure we are as explicit as possible, right? So when you come here, you see how we included the rates here. So this is the example for Nigeria. So we included the rates from the crypto to USD and then from the USD to Naira, so that whoever comes here knows exactly what we are doing. Ideally, we could have done from USD to the Naira or from the crypto to the Naira, but then people don't trust it. They want to see where their money is going. They want to see where their money is going. So you need to be as explicit as possible. Otherwise, people are not going to trust you. So when they come to the app, they know that, okay, my money goes here, and then goes here, and then goes here, and then goes here. You want to know that, right? The next thing we do, we adapted the widgets with more explanations and trust. Yeah, I've mentioned there's more explanations for people or for countries who are new to crypto. Unfortunately, there are a lot of countries in Africa that are still very cash heavy, right? There are a lot of countries in Africa that are cash heavy. They use a lot of cash. So in order for you to convince somebody to come and even download an app and then use it, you need to pray to God and have a special anointing on your life, because the people are not going to use it. Right. So we added a lot of things. We added a lot of trust signals. We added a lot of explanations. For instance, we explained that, okay, you paid this in fees, and we explained that mobile money. Can I zoom this in? No, I can't zoom in. Oh shit. Okay, you explained that mobile money will take. Okay, so we explain the amount of time the transaction will take. We explain, because there are some people, when you don't tell them the transaction will take X amount of time, as soon as they click send, they'll come to Twitter and come and mention you. I've sent money and it's been 2 minutes. The money has not reflected. Right? Who has done that before? I've seen a lot of that on Twitter, where they come and tag the company and say, I've sent money and it's been 10 minutes and the money has not reflected. Yeah, you need to let the user know. So with this, we let the user know that this will take 2 days, this will take 3 days, this will take 4 days. And with that, the user knows that, okay, this is going to take X amount of time, right? X amount of time. And then, okay, Gloria, I'll answer the question after. Yeah, I've seen the question. Okay, so you need to let the user know this will take X amount of time so that they are aware of what's going to happen. Right. Another thing we did was to simplify the interface for countries with lower smartphone penetration. There are some countries that they still use, or as a lot. I did a presentation at Config 2 years ago, Figma Config 2 years ago, where I talked about designing for the African population. And the small research I did show that a lot of African countries still use some of these low-end phones. So you see Oraimo. No, does Oraimo have a phone? No, Techno. I don't think it would take long for Oraimo to have a phone. Let's give them 2 years. Oraimo developed a phone, right? Or did they have a phone? Does anybody know? Or they don't? Okay, I'll assume they don't have a phone. So you take companies like Techno, Infinix, and the rest. Those companies produce smartphones, but they are low end. So if you are designing an app for them, don't go and design an app that is so heavy that it will cause their phone to lag. Right. There was this startup that I saw last year or 2 years ago? Right. They said they were trying to bank the unbanked. Does anybody know what that means? Like bank the unbanked. So like those people who don't have access to banking technology, we want to bring them into the banking space or want to bank them, want to give them opportunity. And then when I check their app, I was like, somebody who uses Infinix will struggle to use your app. Right. And there was another one I saw, they were banking the unbanked, but then they had their app was only iOS. I was like, bruh, like the people who are unbanked, don't even have money to buy iPhone 15 or the rest. Right. So how are you going to bank the unbanked if you are using a mobile app? Even that's even an issue. A mobile app. Yeah, but right. So for example, and for if you are designing, say you want to bank the unbank for somebody who is in some of the remote villages, let's say the person is in my village, right, where internet is poor, where electricity is not constant. How is a mobile app going to solve their problem? You see, how is the mobile app going to solve their problem? Because they'll struggle with internet, they'll struggle with start with touch phone. Right. How is smartphone going to solve their problem? They'll struggle with internet, they'll struggle with electricity and all that. Exactly. USSD. That's why USSD has been a game changer in a lot of countries. That's why mobile money has spread so fast because of USSD. Because you don't need fast internet to use USSD. You don't need 5G internet to use it. You don't need a smartphone to use it. You can use the simplest of phones and you can still use USSD. Right. So if you come and tell me you're banking on bank and then your iOS app has 10 megabytes of illustrations or animation at the splash screen, which unbanked are you going to bank? Like it doesn't make sense to me. Right. Let me stop before I start ranting. So so the next one is we incorporated local payment methods specific to each country. And this was key to adoption of the product because we went into all the cultures that all the countries that we are designing for and saw the most used payment method in that country. Right. So when you go to Nigeria, Nigerians use their bank transfer as like the way Ghana use mobile money. I was so surprised when I went to Nigeria, somebody paid Bolt with bank transfer. I was so surprised. I was really impressed. Right. I was really impressed with it. But then if you come to Ghana and then you go into a boat and you tell the driver that let me send the money to your bank, the Ghanaians here, tell me, how do you think the driver would react? Right? The Ghanaians here, let me know. How do you think that if you enter a boat and then you tell the driver, oh, I'll pay to your bank, they're going to look at you some way. But then go to Nigeria and then I was in a boat and my friend paid with his bank and he asked the driver for the driver's bank account number. I was so impressed. Right. So now if you are this you use cashing. Yeah, some of them use cash or mobile money. Yeah, even card payment, they'll cancel. I've had some drivers cancel rides on me because they saw that it was a card trip. Even card, they'll cancel. If it's very strange, even card, they cancel. Right. So now if you are so now in designing this widget for our customers, we have to customize all the payment methods for all the countries. So in Nigeria, we do bank transfer. In Ghana, we do mobile money. Right. In other countries, we do mobile money, bank transfer, and P2P. Other countries also use P2P. Right. So understanding this would help you drive adoption for your company or for your products because you know the specific needs of every group. Yes, in the US it takes for banks. Yeah. I was so surprised by that when I heard that. 22 so you can send money to somebody's bank in the US. It's not instant. Right, but then in Nigeria, you can stand there and then send someone. In Ghana too, you can use the instant one, but adoption is very low. So you need to understand the challenges that come with like creating cohesive brand experience, right? And you need to cater for the local preferences of the country or the people, the group you are designing for, right? If you pay attention to that, like adoption for your products would increase because people will feel that you are designing for them, right? So what are the key takeaways? Some key takeaways and the actionable tips that we can do, right? What the hell can we do, right? I've said plenty things. We can start with user research for the target audience, right? We say user research, but a lot of us don't actually do user research. We just go and gossip with the users and come back and design what we want. That's what a lot of people do. We just go and gossip with the users and come back, and then we do what we want. But then actually listen to them and understand what they. You go to the users and then chat to them. Oh, what do you want to do? Oh, how difficult is it? Like, yeah, a lot of us we just go and gossip and then come back and do what we want. Right. And let me give you this tip for this a case study tip for your portfolio. If you start your portfolio with things that you learned from the user research, right? You start a portfolio with your goals. You start a portfolio with, oh, you went to do user research and then you got this insight. At the end of your case study, right, make sure that those things that you set as goals, you have brought them up at the end of the case study and then shown how you achieve those things, right? This is a case study tip. So in the beginning, you are like, okay, the goal is to add 20 pages to the, no, that's not a realistic one. Okay, let's say in the beginning, the goal is to make payments easier in Ghana, right? At the end of the case study, you need to tell us again how you achieved that goal that you said in the beginning, right? And also, if in the beginning you did user research and you learned that, oh, users said this, and this, at the end of the case study, you need to come back and tell us this thing that the user said they want, have you been able to solve it for them, right? So this is a quick case study tip for those who are doing case studies, right? Otherwise, if you don't say that at the end, it leaves the reader hanging and it tells me that I didn't do the work well, right? There are a lot of case studies, let me not deviate, but there are a lot of case studies I see nowadays. As soon as I read the first 3-4 lines, I will know whether you did the research or not. And a lot of people don't do the research. Am I lying? If you actually do the research, let me see your hands. The people who actually do the research, raise your hand and let me see. Some of you are lying. Nah, I don't trust you. Right. So in order to get people to believe or to understand what you're just state your goal and at the end, right? Restate your goal and then explain how those goals were met, right? So yeah, that's a small deviation. So let's continue. So design with flexibility in mind. That's what the thing is. Yeah, right. So design with flexibility in mind, right? Create systems that can easily adapt to different cultural context. So if you create your designs with flexibility, you make your call to access as short as possible. So that if somebody is using, have you seen how our parents they increase the font size on their phones? Whose parents has done that? My dad's font size is very big on his phone, right? It's like his iPhone is like the biggest size. So if you make your call to actions as short and concise as possible, if somebody has even increased their font size to the max, they will still be able to see it and it will be nice enough, right? But then if your call to action is 5 words, if your call to action is very long or your copy is not concise, if somebody increases their font size to 99, the person will have difficulty in reading what you put there. Right, I'm sure a lot of us have not even considered this when designing before. I'm sure a lot have not considered it, like people who have big font size when you are using your product. Like it's something that we hardly consider. But then there are a lot of people who use their mobile phones with big font size. Some people also use their mobile phone with small font size. My phone like this is at the smallest size, right? so that I can see a lot of information at once. And you need to take all those people into consideration too. So you see, at the end of this, you realize that the design work that we are doing is not just going into Figma and then coming out and then, oh yes, they're finished. No, you need to take into consideration all these things, right? And that makes the work both interesting, complex, and then it makes it confusing and frustrating too, right? As a designer, right? But then that's part of the fun. That's part of the joy of being a designer. Can I hear an amen? All right. Nobody will say amen. Okay. Cool.
Amen.
Right. All right. Another thing, be mindful of color symbolism. Right. We've talked about color a lot. Where color, the purple queens and kings. Let me see. Who are the purple kings and queens here? So the purple people would the color, the people understand color differently. Another person will understand color in a different way. Right. Be mindful of the way we use the color and imagery in our designs. I told you a story about how we used the illustration, and then the illustration was frowning, and then people were offended that why are we using frowning illustration, right? We need to be mindful of all that imagery and color use in our illustration. That's why, as a product designer or as an interface designer, any designer at all, you need to start with the basics, color theory, all those things. Some people just start design and then they start designing dashboards and the rest, right? But once you understand the rudiments, the color theory, how color is used, how imagery is used in different cultures, all those things come together to make you a very good designer, right? So then the fourth one, consider cultural dimensions when designing navigation and information architecture. I talked about cultural dimensions, the 4 cultural dimensions I talked about earlier. The power, the power space, or the power distance. We talked about what the ambiguity. We talked about all those things, the cultural difference. You need to also take into consideration that when you are designing navigation and then information architecture. We talk about how Gen Zs like information very quick, and then the older people can afford to take their time and then go through the information. Right. We talk about how different people, some people like onboarding quick, some people like to take their time with it. Right. You need to take into consideration all of that. Right. Then the last one, test your designs with users from the targeted cultures. Right. Don't go and test the thing with your friend and say that, oh, my friend says this is this, and then I'm happy. No. The context that your friend has is different from the context that your users would get. So sample some of your users, right? Sample some of your users and then test with them in order to understand, like, from their point of view and all, right? So yeah, I've talked a lot. We've done what? We've done over an hour. Yeah, 1 hour 10, 1 hour 11 minutes. Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, we've talked a lot about context. We've talked a lot about culture. We've talked a lot about understanding context from the rest. Yeah, thank you all for listening to me rant for 40 minutes. No, for 1 hour 10 minutes. All right. So I'll go on and answer the question from Gloria. Then if you have any other questions, just raise your hand. So you can raise your hand and I'll open the queue, and then would go through it and go through the questions, right? So Gloria's question. In a situation where you are designing a product and there's an MVP, that can be a game changer for the users, but their culture, beliefs, attitude don't accept it based on your obvious research. What should you do? Design mediocre for acceptance for now, or go ahead with initial? Design mediocre for acceptance. Okay, so this is a question to you. Have you seen some of the big banks in Africa or some of the big banks in the world? Some of their website is actually trash. Who has noticed that? Maybe trash is too harsh. Maybe trash is too harsh. But you have some of the apps that they use. It's really bad. But then they are some of the top banks in the country. Right. That's because they didn't pay close attention. They didn't pay too much attention to what they thought was nice and good, but then they focused on solving the issue for the user. And as time went on, they improved the product as it improved. As time went on, right? So don't throw away your users from the beginning. Design for acceptance. Even if you think it's mediocre, it's an MVP. Like you said, it's an MVP. MVP is not always the complete product. MVP is not the best version of the product. MVP can be very simple, right? So design and get the users acceptance. And when the users accept the product, learn from whatever feedback they give you and then improve the product to make it more beautiful. Right. So don't shoot yourself in the foot by sticking too much to your biases and the rest. It can be shitty to you or it can be terrible to you, but then the user will say that it is the most beautiful thing in the world. Who has experienced that before? Where you design something and in your eyes, this is not nice. But then somebody saw it and was like, oh, you are the best designer in the world. What? But then in your mind, you're like, nah, this is not true. Right. So the key to this is let the design right so that the users accept and then iterate upon it. If you want to wait till you get a perfect product before you ship, you might never ship. So ship, let the users accept it, improve the product, the acceptance grows, and then you can fixing a lot of updates, improvements, and all that, right? And as time goes on, your product will be better. Right. Do customers, founders not know that? Yeah, that's why it's your job to tell them as designers. Right. Okay, so do customers who have different products have to accumulate everything in one when entering into market like China? If I understand you, please come and give me the question. Or you can just unmute and ask the question. Mr. George. Is George here or George is shy?
Hello?
Yeah, George.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that you see, most Chinese products have everything in one. Yeah, so if you see, we have something like uh, a company who uh, have a product for maybe paying electricity, they have another one for ordering food, they have doing different things. If you are entering markets like China, should you just put everything in one? Since like that's what they are used to.
Okay. Well, it depends on what product you are offering. If you are offering just one product, you can't do that because that's the only thing you're offering. Right. But then if you have a suite of products, if you have multiple products under your umbrella, then yes, because they are used to that. Right. If you look at the average Chinese app, right, it's very crowded. Who has seen like an actual Chinese app before? It looks very crowded. And their language, their writing also doesn't help because it's very it's a lot. Right. There's a lot of marks and a lot of lines and all. Yeah. If you look at some of the Asian products, Chinese, Japanese, it looks very crowded. But then they are used to it and they can navigate it well. So if you have just one product, then yeah, you can't do that. But if you have multiple products, yeah, you can try it out to see how they use it. Right. But I don't think it's compulsory to do. Right. It's just something they are used to and can leverage that. But for compulsory, I'm not sure. Right. Because they have their own, yeah, WeChat has everything. WeChat has payments, social media. WeChat has everything in it. It's a really crazy app. Yeah, Harry. Is there a question or is an addition?
A question.
Okay, then let me go. Okay, you ask your question, then I'll go to Edison.
Okay, so so I design products too. I'm a front-end engineer, and we built a website and we tested it out with users in Ghana. And the request that they gave us was that why isn't it an app that I can use on my phone? And we realized that people in Ghana don't really like to use websites. Like, and I was just
We are sorry.
yeah. So it's something that I've realized, and if you could comment on it too, yeah.
Yeah, every like community, every country, every jurisdiction, they have what they like, right? They have what they like. So a jurisdiction like the Western world, let's say US, right? More people use more high quality phones there, so they'll be more likely to use apps because it's what they grew up with, right? There are people who are, let's say, 10 years old in Asia right now or in China right now. They've not seen cash. They've not held cash before because they are used to paying digitally, right? So such a person, if you go and give the person cash, they'll look at you weird, right? So it's just the culture. Is it a culture? You remember what I mentioned about the bank transfer in Ghana and Nigeria? It's just a culture. A Nigerian person will come to Ghana and then try to pay bank and then decide don't take bank or card and then they'll be surprised. So it's just a culture. It's unfortunate, but it's that's the least I can say. It's just a culture, right? So just know what your users would use, and yeah. But what other insight did you get from Ghanaians apart from we don't like apps?
So I'm not saying apps actually.
Oh, I didn't get your question well. Okay, what are you saying? Hello?
Do
Can everybody else hear Harry?
I can't hear him.
so
either.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello. Yes. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that we're tracking user retention and realize that users will come to the websites and they will not come back again, and they'll we wanted it they can use just like Snapchat, WhatsApp. It's like they've grown more used to using apps on their phone and not visiting websites. Get me? I don't.
Yeah, the network. Can you type the question, Harry?
Okay.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, then I'll just read it and then we'll discuss it. Yeah. Okay, so Edison, Onye, Onyinye. Is that, yeah, I don't think I've butchered it. Onyinye. Okay, so when designing products that cut across target groups, example, Gen Z, millennials, how does one go about creating a balance, ensuring that there's room for flexibility to suit the needs of the younger folks, and that the product is linear enough that the learning curve is really low for older users? Very good question. Balance. So you need to make sure you don't lean too far into one culture, right? That's one thing you should know. And another thing you should note is you should see the analytics of the usage, like what percentage of people are using it that are Gen Z, what percentage of people are using it that are millennial, and the rest. And then you can tweak to favor them a little bit, right? So for instance, you are designing an app for Gen Z, and then same example, right? And then it's a fintech app, and you realize that Gen Z people are contributing $20 million every month, but the millennials are giving only $1 million every month. What will you do as a designer or as a company? You lean more towards the people bringing more money, right? So it's it's just an analytics issue, right? So that you start by not leaning too much into either, right? You start by trying to satisfy as many needs as possible for all of the groups, and then as time goes on, you learn what is going on in the analytics. Which group is using me the most? Which group is providing more value? Which group is providing less value? Which group is dropping off? Right? Like Harry's example about the retention. If you are retaining more millennials over Gen Z, then you need to do something to reward the millennials because they are staying in your app. Right? If you are retaining more, if you are doing things to retain more if Gen Zs are retaining in your app more, you need to do something that aligns with them to keep them even more, right? But you don't neglect the other group. So it starts with balance, and then you move the needle a bit based on whatever metrics the company is looking for. Right. My team, we are looking for high value people, right? People who transact more, people who use the app more, people who transact large volumes. So if we realize Gen Zs are transacting large volumes, we will do things that will make the Gen Zs do even more volumes, because we've seen that that's where our money is coming from. Right. So it starts with balance, and then it moves to where whoever brings the most value. So you need to know what the North Star of the company is, what the company sees as valuable, right? What the company sees as valuable, and then move in that direction, right? Are you answered, Edison? Like, did you understand?
Yes, that's very clear. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is Harry back with us? I feel like a radio presenter now. Okay, yeah, Harry has typed this message. Nice. Users complained that they wanted an app like Snapchat, WhatsApp. They couldn't go to me, meaning we had to make a mobile application out of our mobile web app. We found out that barrier to entry for websites, mobile applications here in Ghana. We are dealing with, yeah, I think that's why. Well, a lot of things can cause this, right? What product is it? What industry is it? That could cause this. Competition can also cause this, right? So here, users complain. Wait, let me read it one last time. Users complained that they wanted an app like Snapchat, WhatsApp. It could easily go to, meaning we had to make a mobile application out of our web application. We found out that the barrier to entry for websites and mobile applications is huge in Ghana. We were dealing with Gen Zs, that's why. I think that's why. Well, yeah, it depends on the age of Gen Z, though. If you are dealing with people who are not old enough to have mobile phones, then it could be an explanation, right? If you are dealing with people who cannot own a phone, yeah, if you are dealing with people who cannot buy data regularly, right, to download a 35 megabytes app. When I was younger, I was using there was this phone, this Chinese phone, that came out during the Olympics. I think is it 2008 Olympics. Let me Google it and see. Where did the 2008 Olympics happen? Who knows? 2008 Olympics. Where did it happen? China. Yeah. It was hosted in China, and Chinese released the phone, and I was using that phone. That phone can't make noise, right? It has very small memory, so I was not able to download any big apps, but I could go to waptrick.com. Who remembers Waptrick? Let me see the old men and women here. Samuel. Yeah, I've seen the old men and the old women. Right, I wasn't able to download big apps, but I could go to Waptrick and download those Symbian OS apps and those small apps. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it might be the user, but there are a lot of things, Harry. There are a lot of things that might contribute to that. Yeah. But if you can throw more lights, maybe the type of product and all. Agnes Abba. Is it have I pronounced it well? Abba. Agnes Abba. Nice. You know your name means Agnes has come in Ghana. Yeah, Agnes Abba. It's Agnes has come. That's what it means in Ghana. Okay, so have you ever been in a situation where product owners prefer to release features that trend in the market without necessarily carrying out user research and knowing why these features are trending in the first place? If yes, what can one do in such a situation? Yes, I've been in such a situation. Firstly, at first I used to fight it, right? I used to fight it. I was a product designer that I'm always arguing with the people. Right now, I still argue, but then I don't argue a lot. I'm getting old, right? But then I used to be a designer that argues. What you can do in such a situation is create the best experience, regardless of whether you agree with the product or not, right? Because if you want, the situation right now is whether you like it or not, the product is going to go live, right? Whether I like it or not, the product is going to go live. And I would rather a product that I don't like, but then is designed well and goes live, than one that I don't design well. So that's one thing. That's the professional wise. But then as a designer, right, you need to question them a lot. Right. As a designer, question them a lot. And questioning people gives them chance to think about what they are saying. So if they come and tell you that we need to design this app, ask them that, okay, why are we designing this app? Right? Ask them what metric are they trying to improve with this app? What's going to be the impact they are expecting on this app? Right? What are they looking out for from this app? The more you ask them questions and then they start answering you, they think about what they are saying. Right? They think about what they are saying. And the more they think about what they are saying, they reflect on it and be like, okay, maybe this one is okay. Because some of the stakeholders are very impulsive. Right. Some of the stakeholders are very impulsive and they don't think through things they see. Right. As soon as you see that, oh, this app has this, then they'll come and text in the Slack. We need to build a feature that transports people from Ghana to Nigeria in under 5 minutes. Right. Some of them are very impulsive. But once you start questioning them about the moral or the rationale behind certain decisions they make, they start to think about it. And a lot of the time, they reconsider. And then that is when you can give your suggestion. The thing about asking questions and the thing about fighting back is that you need a solution ready. Right? Because if you fight back a lot and you don't have a solution ready, they'll tell you are just wasting your time. Do you understand? So if you are trying to fight a feature or you are trying to fight against something that you don't think is sensible, before you go and start your fight, have something that you're standing on. Because if they ask you, okay, what should we do? And then you can't say anything, then you now start looking like a fool. In quotes, sorry. Right, but do you understand? Okay, yes, cool. So if these things happen a lot especially in fast-moving startups where people expect things to move quick. So now you have to make it your responsibility to, if you don't agree with something, have an alternative, right? Think through it and have an alternative that, okay, I don't think we should do this, but we should do X, Y, and Z. So that if you go and then you fight back, it's easy for you to win that argument. A lot of the time you don't win, but a lot of the time that you win, you'd be happy with yourself. Right. But yeah, back to the first thing I said, whether you agree with it or not, sometimes it happens. Right? Sometimes it happens. We can't have the ideal environment. Yeah. Or signs of 30 plus. Hey, George, am I the one you're calling 30 plus?
Well,
Okay, yeah, I think you're done with the questions.
yeah, I think that
Cool.
was the last question there.
Yeah.
I guess everyone can agree that this has been a wonderful session. I mean, at some point, I started questioning my age as well, because I could relate with too many things to be comfortable with. And yeah. So thank you so much. I mean, we definitely have a lot to go back to, think through, especially when we are researching, right? I mean, I felt attacked when you said some people just go and gossip with users and they come back. But yeah, thank you so much for your time and the knowledge you've shared. This is a whole lot of value, and I'm sure everybody agrees with me that this was quite enlightening. And I mean, somehow I hope you get another topic that you come back here and share with us, because it was very relatable. That was really, really nice. So that brings us, I don't think we can take any more questions.
But is there a question or it was a mistake?
Okay, yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining. Again, this is SIGCHI Lagos chapter. I would be dropping a link to a form if you want to join the community. I hope you join the community. That's for everybody in attendance. So you can, have access to resources and, just the community. Anything we share, you get to know about it. Derrick, again, thank you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to having you again. Fingers crossed. So
Yeah, let's see. So just let me know. I'm open to. So just let me know, right? You can
Yeah.
check me out on anywhere, Twitter, everywhere. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So wrapping up, let me just talk a bit about Agnes. Maybe you could drop whatever you want to say in the chat, I guess, so that we can, finish up and everybody can enjoy their evening. So let me talk about World Disability Day Africa. So we have an event coming up in November. World Disability is, an annual event where designers, developers, different people in the product industry or, in different industries, pretty much come together to talk about challenges, innovations in usability, accessibility. So this year in November, we are having the first event in Africa. It's going to be holding in Lagos. This would be an opportunity for you to come learn and, interact with people in the industry. When we talk about accessibility, usability, we often think about just designers, but this covers everybody that has to do with, designing products, physical, digital products. So I would encourage you all to, to participate. Let me see if I can. Okay, yes. Paula Jami sharing her screen. So this is our website. You can get your tickets here against November. This would really be enlightening. It's just an opportunity for you to stay updated with things that shape our future, the things that have the power to shape the future of product design or product development in the world as a whole. And with that, I would be, with that, we'll be rounding up this session. So thank you all once again for being part of today's webinar. And we hope to see you guys in November, and future webinars we're going to be having with ACM Lagos. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you all so much.
With the video, how would we get it?
Yes, we're going to be uploading the video on YouTube. I believe if you go back to the event page, it's going to be updated when we have the link up. So you can always go back to the events page to get access to the video.
Okay. All right,
Yes.
cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening or the rest of your day. Okay. How do you join community? I just dropped the link to the form. Let me drop that again. You can always ask questions. If you know me, you can ask me questions if you have any. So bye, everybody.